My name is Tim Chan. Hi, my name is Tim Chan. I am an autistic non-speaker.
Welcome to the Autism Explained online summit. In this session, our topic is Let the Fingers Do the Talking, a non-speaking panel discussion with Tim Chan, Lucy Blackman, Andrew Bloomfield, and Grant Blasco. So this session is a little bit different to all the others since all our panelists communicate their words by typing rather than speaking. So as you can imagine, typing responses takes significant amount of time and mental energy. So to facilitate their contribution, instead of a live interview, I've asked them questions in advance and compiled their responses into this video. So without further ado, let's meet our panelists who will introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Tim Chan. I am an autistic non-speaker.
Diagnosed with autistic disorder at 3. I also have complex communication and high support needs with many autistic challenges including hypersensitivities, high anxiety and movement coordination issues. Even with intensive intervention and speech therapy, I was not able to develop speech. At 9, I picked up an augmentative and alternative communication method via partner-assisted typing. With assiduous practice in assisted typing, I became more independent for engagement with the world, and highly motivated to advocate for people without speech. With assisted typing as my main mode of communication, I have graduated from mainstream high school to study at university and engage in a number of advocacy organizations to work towards access, participation and inclusion for people with disability. This journey has been long and rocky, but also highly rewarding with meeting many allies and friends along the way.
My name is Andrew Bloomfield. I am 53 years old. I live in Guelph, Ontario, Canada. I was born in New Zealand but left when 6 months old, visiting Melbourne, Sydney and Perth as well as India, Russia and England on our way to Canada. I started an organization called Bridges Over Barriers almost 20 years ago, for people like me who cannot speak but have a voice to be heard. My way of expressing myself is through supported typing, which I have used for just on 30 years. Bridges does not pay like a job, but it is a true passion I have to let others know we exist. I also enjoy gardening, running, walking, reading, copy typing, table games and puzzles and keeping my home tidy. 9 companions play a big role in my life, helping to keep me anchored and making bridges to connect with people. I have a wonderful life here in my home and I would always want to keep it that way. I express myself through poetry, painting, and composing books and film scripts about my life and passion for bridges.
I was born in 1972 in Melbourne, Australia. I now live in Brisbane, Queensland. I have autism without speech, so I function as if I had an intellectual disability. When I was 14, I didn't have language, at least none that anyone had observed. Now I have an MA degree, have written a book, and have been quoted in other people's books. I have done some of my bucket list, including completing mainstream high school, travel, authorship, university, analysis of my difference, and in that I have been incredibly lucky that my primary partner, who's my mother, had skills and interests I could exploit. Now I want to be a person who can exploit this experience for my daily life in my own way.
To start, I am 19 years old. As you can probably already tell, I use assistive technology rather than my voice to talk. I was diagnosed at age 2 with autism, and have used forms of AAC since then, but started typing openly with supports for my regulation and dyspraxia at age 9. The fact that I can't talk at this point might make others have immediate assumptions about my potential, but I am focused on changing those biased opinions about me, and about others too. Today, I am a student, dual enrolled in both high school and college in the Seattle area of the United States. I am also a DOIT scholar at the University of Washington, which is a long-standing 3-year mentoring program for college-bound teens with a wide range of disabilities. I have already been an advocate for autism, and especially for those with communication challenges, for many years. I am proud of my work with TASH and Communication First, where I have had an opportunity to stand up for what I believe needs to improve for the benefit of autistic individuals. Currently, I am co-designing a course with New York University to discuss Universal Design for Learning (UDL) support for AAC users in public schools, and I am working on a few projects that outline executive function education needs for AAC users.
Because of my challenges, life is never easy. Because of my challenges, life is never easy.
My high anxiety levels, hypersensitivities and processing difficulties mean that I have not been able to navigate unfamiliar environments well. It is very hard to be comfortable around unfamiliar people as well. Because of my autistic challenge, which can be extreme and debilitating, social situations are not my scene. But I love to connect with people and to participate in daily activities in calm settings. Some of the things people can do to help consist of acknowledging me as a person on my own right, with accepting and supporting me without judging my outward appearance and autistic behavior. We can establish relationships based on mutual respect and communication-friendly environments. Be patient with me by recognizing that my challenges in communication does not mean that I don't want to talk. Talk with a relatively quiet and calm ways to minimize sensory overload issues. Give me opportunities to get to know you and feel comfortable in talking together, especially when meeting for the first time. Anything visual such as diagrams, photos or objects would help me in getting the meaning out of words. Please go with the flow of the conversation and be patient, as I may need time to process what to say in response. Please don't interrupt or try to word predict my typing, as this throws a spanner in the works in processing of my output. If you're unsure of my answers, please ask questions to clarify instead of second-guessing, as this means I need more processing time. It may be necessary for me to take breaks, to take a walk or lie down in a quiet space to deal with anxiety, overload and fatigue.
You were asked about the best way to make you feel safe and included, and you said the best way to help me fit in is just to say hi and let me lurk on the edge of the group. The most difficult thing is if you try to have a conversation, and that is true even of typing unless you have a lot of experience.
Emotional support is very important when I want to communicate something. If I do not have that, then I start to have doubts and lose motivation, but luckily I have had wonderful supporters throughout my years with supported typing. Emotional support keeps me close and comfortable and motivated to keep talking with my facilitator and anyone having a conversation with me. In my opinion, there are areas where we need more stakeholder conversations that guide others and how we want them to show up for us. We need to be more explicit about how the environments we are in cause us stress. We need to share more details about how communication privileged people can step in to help. Implementation of supports matters. In a nutshell, I would like to begin a dialogue about how this applies to schools, with professionals, with peers, with family, and with work environments. As an example, I think each person who teaches AAC in schools or therapy settings should consider supporting an AAC user around the clock for 1 week. Only then could you truly appreciate the number of barriers we encounter and have to problem solve our way through every day. I often say I would love a drone to follow me around. Laugh out loud.
There is a prevalent attitude that speech is the gold standard of communication. There is a prevalent attitude that speech is the gold standard of communication.
Most people don't really know much about individuals with complex communication needs, and while many people are open-minded, some would find those who use diverse methods for talking quite disconcerting. With this fear of our differences, some people would ignore, downplay our responses, or look in disbelief at our attempts to type a talk. These roadblocks make me feel extremely reluctant to expose myself further, as I become a non-entity in their eyes. This attitude is underscored by the presumption of incompetence, and I have experienced this at high school as well as other places. The problem is we are the minority. Not listening to us deprives us of the means to prove ourselves as members of the human race with our own likes, dislikes and foibles. When people don't believe we are intelligent and can communicate, we feel downgraded. With our fear of ridicule, when our attempts at communication are sidelined, we may not be able to respond, in turn, reinforcing their negative judgments, and hence becomes a vicious cycle.
When I went to public places, some people would take a look at me and pretend I was not there, but this has not happened for quite some time now. I also used to get glances from people if I was making strange noises and not intentionally meaning to do that. But over time, more people around me have learned to accept this, and even a friendly wave or saying hello has come to be more common than ever. If I am out in public and do not have any kind of communication devices with me, then my companion does the talking, but if I am here at home, then I have an opportunity to say what I need to get out. People misunderstand if I cannot speak and think I do not have anything intelligent to say, but that has not come across around me for a long time. I think people are growing more aware of some capabilities I have, even though they do not know me personally. I think they are keeping their minds open. Being treated equally and validated is the best way to get my spirits up, and it also helps having my canine companions with me. They give me that courage to meet people. How do I feel when people we call skeptics and negative thinkers may say disbelieving things in my hearing when I am typing to talk? It can be discouraging when new people say they do not believe it is our voice, but that it is our facilitator who is doing the talking. It is actually us. Our facilitators just stabilize us. Being believed is vital. We use some safeguards like message passing to show that the words come from the non-speaking person who is being well supported. Clean language questions also help. Respectful friends and observers show that they really understand and want to know the person I am.
We need to get over the idea that you can look at a person and guess their level of understanding, or that you do an assessment without first building a trusting relationship. We need to start a narrative of constant curiosity instead. Everyone is different. Each autistic person is different, with their own unique challenges, but I definitely think there are many non-speakers who are underestimated. Please also, instead of saying nonverbal, say non-speaking, which is more accurate and respectful. I have many challenges, but the biggest is other people's preconceived ideas about what autism is and is not. Not being able to communicate with speech affects every single aspect of my interaction with the world, every day. Think about your average teen. We are all trying to find both an individual identity for ourselves, as well as group belonging. Without a voice on command, I cannot easily join a conversation. I might have the perfect quip in my head, but I can't get the timing right for joking around. I can't walk and talk to a friend at the same time. And I constantly feel that others might be too impatient, or are just moving too fast to wait for me to contribute. These are all tough things to navigate as a teen, but I am working on it. My autism and non-speaking status also affects my chances of ever driving, dating, or even being safe in my own community alone, and so many other aspects that a lot of people take for granted. Even with my membership as a DOIT scholar at UW, a program for college-bound students with various disabilities, my inability to orally speak seemed to limit me much more than students with other significant challenges. That was a tough pill to swallow, and it caused my anxiety about the future to peak. I'm still trying to understand my own life expectations and limitations. I think sometimes people don't think these things are my worries, and that is frustrating because I think it would be nice to get some credit for the emotional strength I have mustered to manage how much this stuff bothers me sometimes. On top of all of this, the way I learn to communicate is still under constant scrutiny. Proving myself worthy every day has become the norm. I bring it up because inclusion is supposed to be about acceptance of difference, but some of us have dealt with an added bar that seems so unjust. It does not seem to matter to some that I have done so much work to overcome my challenges. Moving to independence gradually, going back and filling in all the general education skills I missed because of segregation. I wonder when and if all my efforts will ever be enough. I think the C O N T R controversy A R around N O N S non-speaking A autistic people I is A N E X A example S T R U C structural oppression that S U P P O S E S supposes T H that A N Y anyone S M I S exist. O N un T H E.
Come back to it.
There. Own. I think the controversy around non-speaking autistic people is an example of structural oppression that supposes that anyone smart can exist on their own. But I've yet to see a situation in any school where I walk in and people know how to interact with an AAC user, and I have been put in enough unsafe situations that have caused trauma that I no longer will go into environments without a trusted individual who will help me to mitigate risk. What the haters don't seem to understand is the profound societal bias towards oral speech, and the considerable vulnerability and prejudice we face in almost every setting, and I would welcome them to follow me around for a day, and see how many barriers I hit and then tell me I don't deserve to have somebody beside me who is my back.
It has been a long and arduous road to find my voice. It has been a long and arduous road to find my voice.
I wish to say to myself as a child to keep going despite the rough terrain, and not to give up even though it is easier to lay down our burden and rest. It's trite but true that what you get out of things depends on what you put in, so keep it up whatever the cost. It will translate into good outcomes, although you may need to wait for these to pop up. Keep finding means to amplify your voice, and work at telling people about yourself. There would always be people who will listen and understand. They are the support network you will be building on. Be kind to yourself. Don't take the rubbish some people deal out because it's their issue, not yours. Make good use of all opportunities coming your way, be it special occasions to meet new people, or going to a different venue although it is scary at first. And most of all, keep pushing your boundaries. Like, in October 2019, I went to the launch of a report on inclusion, and it was challenging as there were many unfamiliar people at this busy CBD venue. But I met one of the speakers, Ben Gauntlet, the Disability Discrimination Commissioner, who has inspired me with his example and his message for people with disability.
The most difficult thing in retrospect is that none of us realized that I had completely different information coming from sorry. Do you want to take that out? You still that from all my SEN is senses because you're getting very tired. Neurologically, I could not process my environment. The most difficult thing in retrospect about when I was a child is that none of us realized that I had completely different information coming from all my senses, because neurologically I could not process my environment.
I wish I knew supported typing or facilitated communication when I was a child. I think it could have made a big difference. I could have expressed what wanted or needed in ideas. I know my parents and my sister would do anything, and they tried to understand me. I would have liked to tell them all things that I was experiencing through everyday life, but as an adult now, I do not have any regrets.
I think I would tell my younger self to be really non-compliant lol, because all of the masking takes a toll, and I did not get my needs met until I lost it at age 9, and started to type after seemingly my entire childhood was spent trying to mimic typical people. Yes, I wish I met older disability advocates in an even younger age, because they instilled hope for finding acceptance.
To explain that a bit further, the framing of autism as a deficit model definitely impacted my early life. I did not get access to inclusive education with my peers until 5th grade because of the perception that I needed to be treated very differently. I came to understand that I was not born with the same neurology as a typical person. I wish that the shame I felt was not the part of so many memories of childhood. My experiences of toxic stress from trying to mimic typical behavior left me with PTSD responses to everyday exposures most people don't even notice. For instance, I may have an increase in heart rate the second I walk into a school building because of years of dealing with classrooms built for more traditional students. It is called embedded trauma, and I believe it affects many autistic students. I do not have control over when it happens, but I talk myself through it the best I can. Over a long journey, I have done a lot of work to figure out compensatory strategies so that I can participate in life to the best of my ability, and I expect that I will continue to improve. But only if the support I need is available, and that includes a better understanding from professionals of what constitutes trauma and re-traumatization.
Nish, the world can be full of challenges, but it is satisfying to know we can find our niche.
I would like the world to understand that people with complex communication needs are sensitive, empathic, and caring. that we can contribute to bring diverse perspectives and positive outlooks into problematic situations. With meeting our challenges head-on daily, we have become more resilient and better at managing different kinds of stressful situations. For example, with the unprecedented events of COVID-19, many young people with disabilities suffer from social isolation, lack of opportunity to engage in their routine pursuits, which may aggravate mental health issues. Many of us have depended on predictability and routines, and need to cope with disruptions to our courses. We also need to deal with lockdowns, social isolation and digital learning, with our ability severely tested to stay focused on pursuing our study and achieving our ambitions and dreams in uncertain environments. The increased levels in stress and anxiety from lack of contact with friends and social support networks can be extremely isolating. And the need to make constant adjustments to new situations and conditions can be very taxing. Since March last year, I started to attend my classes online. Digital platforms like Zoom can be overwhelming, with anxiety and overload issues. What's more, because people can't see me typing, I often don't get the chance to put in my bits as the conversation moves on. It's very frustrating. Needless to say, navigating challenges is a long haul, but with our experiences in dealing with adversity, I try to find different ways to connect with people and engage in life. For instance, I make special efforts to connect with my support network. Also, I take time to catch up with my lecturers one-on-one so I have opportunities to ask them questions, rather than feel helpless and frustrated when I don't get the chance to type to chime in during class. This works out well as academic staff are more than happy to help. I feel better after learning that there are means to manage life's curveballs with more constructive ways. Here is the thing, tomorrow will be a new day that we can look forward to.
My Bridges dream is to keep expanding all over so others like me can truly express and be themselves. It is also for other people who can speak to be aware and believe in us. Right now it is at a standstill because of the pandemic. Some Bridges members may not be able to speak their thoughts if they are in group homes and do not have trained communication facilitators. I am hoping we will get back on track after the pandemic is over. We used to meet up to 10 times a year to discuss our dreams, wishes, and ideas. We had these gatherings sometimes here and other times at a former church property. It was that wonderful in-person social dynamic I miss having. I am going to keep this organization alive and stay connected virtually with my friends so our hope still grows and we have new members join us. I want everyone to know that even though people like me cannot speak, we do have a voice that needs to be heard. We want to have the same rights just like anyone else would have. Give us a chance and we will open doors for you about what it is like being in our world.
Now I hold the belief that I have to expect that we operate in some kind of parallel, but not actually in gear. I have written about this a lot, and at the moment am concentrating on operating with my basic but digital communication in mainly non-typing environments, which is interesting. Explaining autism and typing is my mission, and that is why I went to university and wrote so much about myself. Then in Brisbane, nearly 20 years after gaining language, I came to meet with people who also finger their language. We see each other 2 or 3 times a month and write from the imagination rather than pass on facts as conventional people seem to think is important. As a non-speaking person with autism, who was diagnosed over 40 years ago, I'm interested in explaining that the common features between many of those with a diagnosis on the autism spectrum are in some ways more important than categorizing us by how well we blend into a neurotypical landscape. But it is still early days. Now I am concentrating on coping in a non-typing environment just to even out my life experience. I do know that death is a different goal, but is the next decade aim. These days I live with one housemate with full-time support. The fact that as a child I didn't visualize or feel my body coherently seems to have hardwired my brain so independence is based on physical predictability that is created by an accustomed carer. The main problem is my own initiation. This means that my companion must make an environment where communication is required of me. For social spontaneity to develop, one needs reciprocity. My biggest dream is to be able to be with people that are in some ways complementary of each other's strengths.
I wish the world knew that stress behavior and autism are two different things, and when the stress of earning my way into a community is removed, I actually like my autistic traits, and if the community saw the change needed and met us more in the middle, I think the whole autistic community would look a bit easier to understand.
Here's what I would like to share. Parents, teachers, and therapists, please assume there is a lot more understanding going on that may be hidden beneath other challenges. The glass ceiling for someone who doesn't talk may always be difficult to navigate, but when you are also denied access to education and support for communication strategies like AAC, based on others' assumptions about your intellect, it is a path to fall farther and farther behind. It can lead to a lifetime of unknown potential with little chance of escape. Imagine the mental health consequences of being forever misunderstood. We all need the human connection that comes from robust communication. Here's what helped me, and may help others too. What I needed was more detailed understanding about my disability, and more direction for how to calm my anxiety about what was hard for me. Not being able to talk in a world of talkers is very stressful. I needed to learn to move my body with more control so I could type. Then, I needed exposure to the same school content that other kids my age were learning. I needed a sense of belonging too, and that happened as a result of others accepting me. So, I'm asking for your help to change mindsets. The fact is that working on solving this for others helps me to deal with the pain from my own history. To say it is still immense is an understatement. The most important takeaway is that there are many strategies for supporting communication, but it all starts with presuming that every student can learn to communicate. Please check out some of my resources included in the video description for more information. And remember, not being able to speak is not the same thing as having nothing to say.